everyone, Diane here, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to have a go at painting a really simple landscape, which I know you're going to enjoy. Going to be using Meaden paper as usual, so I'll just put that aside, and you can see this is my test. I haven't gone very far with this, but this is the background, and that's where we're going to start painting a background, something like that. I'm going to be using a set of Kuretake paints. Kuretake paints come from Japan, and they are wonderful paints. I like them a lot, and if you haven't got them already, I suggest it wouldn't be a great present for yourself, you know, if you feel like lashing out and having a, you know, fine time. So anyway, this is the 36 set. 1, 2, 3, 4. Which is a slightly smaller set than the one I usually use, but it's got all the important colours in it. So, and what we're going to be using in terms of colours today is mostly ultramarine blue. And you don't need these paints. If you haven't got these ones, don't worry. You can use any kind of watercolour paint at all. So I'm going to mostly be using ultramarine blue. I will be using a dark green, so like sap green deep, for example, or hooker's green, anything like that. I'm going to be using a little bit of, this is raw sienna. That's available in every type of paint that's out there, so you don't have to have this set or anything like that. And I'll be using a selection of reds, and this is where this Kuretake set is particularly strong because it comes with 6 different reds. They're all slightly different, and an orange and 3 yellows. So for flowers, which is what we're going to put in the front of this painting, you're well set. It's also got some purples down here as well if you want to put purples in with your flowers. So that's, of course, entirely up to you. So I think you can see that set quite well if I stick it there like that. And the first trial I did it like this, landscape format, but I'm going to, I think, do one this way round. And I might even go as far as to finish off, I don't know, let's see how it goes. I might work on top of this one first because it'll have to dry, right? So, yeah, well, there we are. Let's start. You could put, if you wanted to, washi tape around the outside edge to give yourself a clean line of white around the outside, but you don't have to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put in some nice wet washes. So I'll take a big pot of clean water and throw it, and a big brush. This is a size 14 round from Craft & Mo. But if you haven't got that one, don't worry. Any big brush will do. You could use a hake or something like that. That's also a Japanese brush. You could use one of those if you wanted to. So I'm going to wet the paper. This is a block, so it won't cockle too much. It might bend a little bit, but when it's dry, it will straighten out. So let's just put, this is always quite a nice part of it, I think, just putting water on paper. I quite enjoy this side of it. But then even better still, of course, is the next thing that you do, which is to put the colour on. And you could use any blue for your sky, and you don't even, in fact, you don't have to use blue because, you know, skies do go other colours as well. But if you want anything remotely resembling something vaguely realistic, not that you have to, you could use ultramarine, or you could use cerulean or cobalt blue. They're all good. And this set, if you look here on the inside of the lid, you can see you have a choice of ultramarine, cerulean, you've got turquoise blue. I don't think this one's got cobalt, but the set of 48 has, I think. And you've also got ultramarine pale, which is a kind of semi-opaque one. It's a pastel colour, that one there. But we'll start with a little bit of ultramarine. And when you pop that in, it just, I'm just going to put something there. It just can't wait to mix with the water, can it? So you drop it in and you get these, just get rid of the shadow. There we are. So if you want a nice soft and gentle sky, just with very pale, you know, sky and a little bit of cloud underneath, something like that. You can do it like that, or you can add a lot more colour if you want to make it darker. But all the time you add it into the wet background, it's going to spread and smooth itself out in a nice way like that. You don't have to have it on an angle, but if you do, it will tend to drift down. I picked up a little bit of raw sienna, and I'm just going to pop that in there because I quite like to do that because it gives me the definition between the sky and the land. And once that's dried a little bit, if I wanted to put some hills or mountains in the distance, then I can put them in on top of that. And then what I could do next is I could start with some sort of bluey green in the distance for land, grass, or whatever. And that, of course, will mix quite nicely with the raw sienna. And you can sort of spread it out a bit like that. So this is just a kind of background, really, isn't it? And then we might change. We want it to be reasonably bright because the problem with so many landscapes is that they tend to be all very, you know, dull colours and things. So I'm trying to be a bit more colourful. That's the word. Colourful. So we'll put some yellows here. And on this side we'll put some more greens. We'll go for the sap green. You notice I'm not doing any shapes really, just colours, okay? So I'm thinking land, and I have a photo in front of me of a landscape which is giving me some inspiration, but I'm not trying to copy it. I'm just reminding myself what landscape looks like. Because if I look out the window here, all I can see is concrete and houses and stuff like that. Okay, so you need a bit of inspiration no matter what you're painting, really. Okay, so then let's bring in a bit more of just a little bit of the raw sienna again here, maybe, and then I'm going to put reds and things in the foreground here. So I'm going to try, this is something I'm not particularly good at, I don't think. I tend to try to be too structured. So I'm going to just drop in some dots of orange and try to be dotty. Some people would say I was. And then over here, these look like, they're meant to look like poppies of different sizes. Okay, so we'll do that. And then what we're going to have to do is let it dry and see what transpires. But I will go to the background again before we go away and let it dry, because I should be able, at this point, to just put a little bit more blue in there. I did have a palette handy here so I could mix the colours if I wanted to. So we'll pick up a bit of cerulean and let's make our distant hill line here, and a little bit of ultramarine. And then perhaps a bit of sort of greenish. Okay, and then maybe a bit more green in here. I think it might be quite nice to have a tree here, but I won't try and do that until it's drier in the front. And then maybe we'll put some green down here. Fill in the gaps, perhaps a bit of So I've done all of this with this one brush. And it has a nice point, so you don't need a small brush just to get a point for your painting. You can use a big one as long as it's got a good point to it, if you know what I mean. Okay, I'm going to let that dry and come back to it in a minute, I think. Yeah, that's looking okay for a start, I think. So notice that we've got nice lot of light bright colours in the front there, and then we've got some yellowy greens, and then I'm going to darken this area, and I shall probably put a tree in there and more distant trees, but I don't want to do that while it's wet because it'll just blur too much. So we've got a nice blurry background, so that's a good start. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. The question is, you know, I mean, do I start at the back and work down towards the front, or do I start at the front and move towards the back? It's, I suppose, up to you, really. I think I might start at the back, and I might mix up a little bit of cerulean blue with a bit of green, and let's just put in some distant hills like that. Just let that do its thing. Again, back to the yellow to give us some slightly different tones. A bit more green on here, perhaps. And I did say I was thinking about putting a tree over top here, so I probably will. Let's stick with the yellow though. Maybe let's go to the slightly warmer yellow here. I was using the lemon yellow, but maybe the cadmium yellow might be nice. So we'll do that, and then you see where we've got a line and a line, we could put in some dark greenish trees there, couldn't we? Let's see, if we just come along here and let them just sort of dab in some dots, which will spread to become trees, and then maybe in the background here as well, a few over there like that, perhaps. And what we could do is then we could leave that nice light bit there, because it is quite a nice light bit, so it might be useful. Preserve that light, just soften that up. And a bit of yellow ochre, dropping that around here and there. And now let's do some poppies at the front here. And I think this colour, which is, what does that call itself? Let's see, cadmium scarlet. Yeah, I think that's probably quite a nice poppy colour. So I switch on my shaky hand and let myself just, you know, drop bits and pieces of red. Don't try too hard to make them look like anything specific. Just dabbity dab dab here and there. sort of semi-abstract kind of thing. And where you have the dots underneath, you can go over, try to leave some lights though. And let's pick up some more of this, the corn colour, I think you would call that, this colour of corn. And we can sort of pretend we've got a cornfield behind. And then some green, and let that meld in. So we were talking about the possibility of putting a tree in place, and one of the things that I think is difficult for me, and I think we have talked about this before, is I find it difficult to imagine things unless I can, well, I find things difficult to imagine. So I'm going to put a piece of tracing paper over the top there. And I'm going to grab a pen. This is just a acrylic fibre tip pen, and I'm just going to attempt over the top of a piece of tracing paper to see what would happen if I painted in a tree. Oops. And it would probably need perhaps a fence or something like that. And I'm just really I mean, it does definitely fill a space, doesn't it? So I think probably I will go for that. I might try and paint it a little bit better than that. But I probably need a pencil. To give me a clue, you know. And if we were to say here, we're going to have some kind of fence. And the tree. It's going to be over right near the edge of the paper, I think. I don't need too much detail. I just need a guide. So, yeah, so the fence is going to go over like that. Okay, so let's go for a smaller brush still. This one is I think that's about a 12. So we want the fence to be kind of mouldy green and brown mixture because it's wood, but it's kind of gone a little bit rustic looking. So we mix some brown with some green and we'll just pop in some verticals. Keep it all kind of a little bit rustic. And then we want a darker brown to give us a shadow on one side. We might put that in once it's a little bit drier. But then we do want to paint the tree in the same sorts of colour, dark green. I often start at the point of the end, the far end, when I do trees. And we will want to soften that. We don't want to be too much detail. You could, at this point, if you've got something sharp and pointy, like a pen or something like that, you could, no, that's not going to work, not going to. Maybe this would work. Yeah, you could give some texture to your fence posts just by scratching into the paper a little bit, and your wire. You might put, the fence wire might be done with a pen, but that will give you some idea. And I'm going to basically go for a lightish green. And then just hold my breath and pray. We don't want too much. Then we can put in some more branches. I think I want some black. And we can put some branches in between where we have put the, what do you call them, the leaves, that's it. Okay, and let's come along here a little bit more with a bit more of that. And back to our poppies, and a little bit more form, but not too much. And then we'll pick up a bit of black to put in the centres of some of them. And then we're going to mix that black with some more green. And we're going to basically paint in some grass. You get to this point and you're making a decision as to whether or not you're going to go for line work with a pen. And I think I'm not going to. I'm going to just carry on. This is a field of corn across here. And down here, we've got grasses of various sorts. I'm just going to break this up a little bit by coming down behind where the bed of, well, not bed, but field of poppies is spreading. And keeping plenty of light. You might want to put some more yellow. Doesn't want to come off my brush. What's going on? There we go. And I did say that I would come back to my fence posts and give them a bit more shape. And I could drag that, yeah, give ourselves a bit of wire, just drag with the pen. And maybe we go back to the scarlet, the crimson. We don't want these ones to be quite as bright as the ones over this side, for the reason that we want a bit of variation of, you know, tone and colour. If you do it all the same all the way across, you'll tend to get the feeling that it's like a barrier. And I'm not even attempting to paint poppy shapes. Just dots. Okay. So a few over there, but most of them are over this side. A lot of them are kind of hidden and they go up through the fence. Not stopping at the boundary, but keeping on going. So you've got a big field of poppies. And then you could, finally, to finish off, you might want some relatively bright green. And I think that's about it. I think that will do. So let's see what we have achieved. A poppy field. Looks like a perfect summer afternoon in England, I think. Not completely convinced with my tree here. I think this probably could do with a bit more branch here. When you come back after it's dried and you have another look, you might think, oh yes, I just need to alter one or two things, but it's probably at this point a good idea just to leave it to dry. I mean, I might want to, actually what I probably will do, having said all of that, I might just put a little bit more darkness in here, I think, perhaps. I don't think it'll make a massive amount of difference, but it might. And then that would leave me with a situation here where I need to reinforce those fence posts again because they've kind of faded back a bit. Anyway, you might want to put some white in there to give it a bit more of a lift, possibly. You know, you could take your white pen and you could add, if it would work, what it will do once it's dry. I can't do it now because it's wet. Excuse me. But anyway, so I think I'm going to leave it like that. That is done for now. And well, I hope you enjoyed that. It's not difficult. Just a little simple summer landscape from Egypt. And all the information about the things that I used is in the description below, the paints and the brushes that I would recommend, and everything else is all in the description below. So I'll let you go, have fun with that, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now, everybody. Bye-bye.